What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and today I'm here to talk about the top smartphones of 2019 so far. So we're just about halfway through the year now, and most of the phones that are going to come out in the first half are already out. You've got phones from Google, Samsung, Huawei, Oppo, and OnePlus, and a lot of these phones have really set the tone to what we should expect later in 2019, and I'm very excited for that. I'm also going to be giving away one of my favorite phones of 2019 so far, and that is the OnePlus 7 Pro Ultimate Edition. So to enter, just make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on this video, and also leave a comment down below, and follow me over on Instagram, and I'm going to leave all the details in the description section. The winner will be picked in the comment section when this video hits 5,000 likes. So I think the biggest trend that I noticed is that there's less notches and more cameras. Pretty much all of these phones have dual camera setups except for the Google Pixel, and a lot of them have triple setups, and that is really nice to see, just to see how far smartphone cameras have come in the past few years. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about each major phone that came out in 2019 so far, their characteristics, what they're good at, what's special about them, and at the end give you kind of my opinion on which phone I think you should get if you're looking to get one for the summer. So for starters, the Samsung Galaxy S10 is one of the best picks so far, and it was one of the first phones to come out this year, and it's always nice to see a company like Samsung kind of set the tone with their video of the Galaxy Fold, which we're still waiting for, but the S10 overall fixed a lot of the things that people want to see improved on the S9 line. The S10 Plus that I have right here has a 6.4-inch Quad HD Plus display, and it is one of the best displays on the market, both in terms of the sharpness, the colors. Samsung also never put a notch in their phone, and this year they also skipped that, but instead have a pinhole setup where the camera is kind of integrated into the display, and I think it looks amazing, and not many phones so far have done that. The display itself is also one of the brightest on the market at 1200 nits. You also have an in-display fingerprint sensor, which overall works pretty well, but the one that I actually prefer is on the S10e, which has it located on the side and is faster than the ones in the display still. As for the camera side, you have a triple camera setup that consists of a normal, a wide, as well as a telephoto. On the front of the S10 Plus, you have a dual camera setup which consists of a standard and a wide. The telephoto camera is a 12 megapixel resolution, whereas the main camera is a 12 megapixel as well with an f1.7 aperture, whereas the wide camera comes in at a resolution of 16 megapixel and has a 123-degree field of view. The camera quality itself hasn't changed too much over the years. I mean, Samsung already did a pretty good job in their previous generations, but I find that the quality of the wide camera is pretty good, although there is a little bit of barrel distortion, which is expected with any wide camera. The front-facing camera though is one of the best. It's a 10 megapixel sensor with dual pixel autofocus and also the ability to record 4K video. And the 4000 mAh battery, from my experience, is able to get through an entire day, but not too much into the second day. One thing to also note is that you still can expand the memory via micro SD, and there is also a headphone jack that is found on the bottom. This phone also has reverse wireless charging that goes in conjunction with any other wireless charging device or the Galaxy Buds, and that is a great feature to see that I hope to find on more phones in the future as well. So the most recent release in 2019 is the OnePlus 7 Pro, and this is a phone that I was very excited for because OnePlus is moving towards the Pro category with a device that comes in at a little bit of a higher price than the previous gen, but is still an incredible value for what it's able to offer, being a flagship caliber in my opinion. I think the first place to start is the display. You've got a 6.67-inch Quad HD Plus display, and I mean, the higher resolution is nice. It's the first time that OnePlus has done that, but I think what's most impressive is the 90 Hz refresh rate. It's what they call the Fluid AMOLED display, and it really does look really fluid, very vibrant, sharp, and just the best display that I've seen on any smartphone. I mean, Samsung's always done an incredible job with saturation and just the vibrance and sharpness, and that's still true, but in terms of an overall experience of a natural display that still looks amazing, such as one like on the iPhone, I think the OnePlus 7 Pro is as close as it gets. OnePlus has never shied away from doing great specs, and this phone has a Snapdragon 855 processor with RAM up to 12 gigs. I also found the device did a pretty good job of keeping itself cool, and what's also cool is that the display goes edge to edge, and as a result of that, you do have the pop-up camera. So that's what it looks like. They've tested it hundreds of thousands of times, and claim that it is very durable, but the screen does go edge to edge, and I love that. But the one thing that I don't like about this phone is that it has curved edges. I wouldn't mind if they went with like a smaller display without the curved edge, but I'm just really not a fan of curved edges because of how easy it is to accidentally press. Now into the camera though, you have a triple camera setup that is found on the back, and it has a wide, a normal, as well as a 3x zoom. The main camera is a 48 megapixel resolution at an f1.6 aperture, an 8 megapixel telephoto with an f2.4 aperture, and last but not least, a 16 megapixel f2.2. The phone itself came out around a month and a half ago, and since then OnePlus has actually done a lot of updates to the camera through software, and there has been some very noticeable pleasant differences. The camera is still excellent for its price point, and especially for all the other things that you're getting, it's still an incredible value, but there is still better cameras on the market from what I'm testing. I think beyond all the great hardware though, the software standpoint of this device is equally as impressive, as Oxygen OS has quickly become possibly my favorite Android skin. Even more so than stock Android, because for the most part, Oxygen OS is pretty much like stock Android. The visuals are amazing, it's a lot of what you're used to with stock Android, and I think everything's just very tidy and well thought out. I think the blue color looks really good, and you've also got a 4000 mAh battery on the 7 Pro, but the one thing that sucks is that there is no wireless charging in this device still. So the next phone right here is one of the best values on the market, and it starts out at a price of $399 and $479 for the XL model, and that is the Google Pixel 3a. So not only does it have one of the best cameras on the market, being the same one on the Pixel 3, but it also has 3 years of guaranteed stock Android updates. The hardware overall in terms of design is pretty much the same as the Google Pixel 3, but it is made out of plastic, which some of you might not like, but I actually really like it a lot because of the fact that it is nice and light. You also do have a headphone jack that is found on the top, which the Pixel 3 doesn't have, and the display on the front is a notchless design that goes pretty much like a standard phone. It is very simple, and the design doesn't have anything that is out of the ordinary or anything special. It is still an OLED panel, which looks pretty good, but it is a little bit different from the one found on the Pixel 3. The viewing angles are just not as good, but honestly, there really isn't anything to complain about because a lot of the main things that make the Pixel 3 great are on the Pixel 3a. Some of the things that allow this phone to reach the budget price point is the specs with the Snapdragon 670 and 4 gigs of RAM, which is still very capable, but obviously not as fast as the A55. You're also missing wireless charging, but on the 3a XL you have a pretty large battery of 3700 mAh, which is bigger than the one found on the Pixel 3 XL. Of course, a lot of these phones in front of me are made out of glass and they're expensive, so the best way to protect it is with a dbrand skin that you can customize to any color or texture. They're available for pretty much every smartphone that I mentioned in this video, or any laptop, tablet, or game console, so I'm going to drop a link to them down below. So another phone that I think is really worth considering, especially if you're in Europe or Asia, is the Oppo Reno. And this is a phone that I think has done a very good job in many different categories, but has also really kept up in some of the latest smartphone features and camera technologies. And for starters, you have a 6.6-inch OLED display with a full HD plus resolution of 2340 by 1080. For a full HD display though, this is definitely one of the better ones that I've seen, and it also goes edge to edge and looks significantly better than the one on the Huawei P30 Pro. This has a 93.1% screen to body ratio, but what I really like about it is that this screen is flat, which a lot of these phones that I have in front of me don't have a flat screen, and I think it is so annoying. The Android experience is overall very clean, and another thing is that you do have a shark fin setup, which allows for this display to go edge to edge. So just enable a camera, it will pop up, and they have tested this hundreds of thousands of times to ensure that it is reliable. And Oppo's been one of the first companies to play with the camera mechanism dating all the way back, and I think if there was any company to do it, I would trust them. The other impressive part of this phone though is the camera, and the fact that it has a triple camera setup that is completely flush is something that you don't see because the one on the Huawei sticks out quite a bit. I think what's even smarter though is the fact that there's a little bead right here that Oppo intentionally installed to ensure the phone never touches the surface that you put it on, so you don't have to worry about scratching the back of your phone or the camera elements. When it comes to the camera itself, the main camera is 48 megapixels and the wide camera is 8 megapixels, whereas the telephoto is 13 megapixels and has the 5x optical zoom. This camera does also use a periscope setup, and I think it's just really cool that they've been able to do this without having the camera stick out at all. You also have 10x hybrid zoom, and this phone has a focal range of 16 to 160. I think the camera algorithm still has a little bit of room to improve, especially in the video mode, but overall this is a good, well-rounded smartphone that has a lot of the latest features that you should expect without some of the annoying quirks. So the next phone that we have here is the Huawei P30 Pro, and this came out in March, and I have to say it is one of the best experiences in terms of the camera that I've ever had on a smartphone in the photo side. I was really impressed by what it was able to do when I was testing it out in Paris, and although it is a little bit unfortunate with the software situation with Android and stuff like that with the US, this itself is a phone that showed a lot of potential, and I think Huawei's really done that with their hardware in the past few years. I mean, getting some of the basic stuff out of the way, this is a 6.47-inch 1080p display that has a notch on the top, but when I look at the overall experience of this device, I think the screen is definitely one of its weakest points. The colors just aren't too great, and just something about it doesn't look as good as some of the other phones that I've tested out recently. It does have an in-display fingerprint sensor, which works pretty well, but one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is just how curved the edges are on the side. The build quality is really nice though with the curved edges. The phone has a nice bulk to it that makes it a little bit harder to drop, and the glass back with kind of the gradient is something that I really enjoy. But now onto the camera itself. This has a triple camera setup, and I think the most impressive thing is that Huawei was one of the first companies to do a 5x optical zoom camera, and the way they do that is with a periscope setup. So because of the mechanism being a little bit large, it actually goes horizontally with a mirror that reflects the image vertically to be able to achieve that within the thickness of a phone. The main camera is 40 megapixels at an f1.6 aperture and a 27mm field of view, whereas the wide camera is 20 megapixel at an f2.2 and a 16mm field of view, whereas the telephoto camera is an 8 megapixel resolution, and from some of the images I took, I was very impressed with the results. With the main camera and telephoto working together, you also have a 10x hybrid zoom and also a 50x digital zoom, which effectively gives this phone a 16 to 1343mm field of view. Honestly though, the maximum I would use it at is 10x hybrid zoom, which still looks pretty usable, but I think 5x is the most that I would want to use for an image that I'm actually posting. I think just from looking at these photos here, if you're looking for a phone that has excellent photos and a lot of versatility, then this one is kind of a no-brainer. I think it is one of the best options that you're going to have. Software though on Huawei phones is just something that I'm not really a big fan of, just in terms of the overall experience and the visuals. When it comes to battery life though, this phone absolutely kills it with a 4200 mAh battery, and I find myself charging this phone very little. You also have reverse wireless charging, and Huawei was one of the first companies to do that last year. So the next one that we have here is one that I feel like is once again one of the most underrated to come out this year. And that's kind of been the case with LG in the past couple years. They've made phones that were good, but just didn't really seem to get the traction that they kind of deserve. And I think the big reason for that is because their phones are simple and they work, but there just isn't anything that is special or really futuristic about it. But the things that they are able to do, they still do quite well. This is the LG G8, and as you can tell right off the bat, the design is very simple, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. The phone is a great size, it feels amazing in the hand, it's not too wide or too tall, but at the same time you do have a dual camera setup on the back, and it is completely flush to the device. You still have your fingerprint sensor found here as well, and it is flush to the phone and fast. And you also have the buttons that I find are perfectly placed on this device. On the front you do have a notch, but you have a great screen, pretty fast software that is relatively simplistic and easy to use, and also very good battery life. The display itself is a 6.1-inch Quad HD Plus OLED display with a resolution of 3120 by 1440. As to the camera, the main one is a 12 megapixel standard, whereas the wide one is 16 megapixel, and I find that the camera quality is pretty decent and relatively good. On the video side of things, one unique feature that this phone does have is bokeh mode in video, but I have to say it looks kind of like a screencasted version. It is cool to see the tech move that direction with the new Snapdragon processors, but honestly, it isn't something that I think I'll use that much. There is also air motion and gestures, but it's something that I just don't think I'll use at all, and I think it's kind of weird. But if you really like that, then I guess this phone is the only one that kind of has it. One thing that I do think is unique, and is actually a really good feature though, is the sound focus of this device. You have great sound quality in the dual speakers, but you do also have a headphone jack that is a hi-fi DAC. Something LG has really pioneered and kind of pushed forward in their smartphones in the past couple years, and it's great that they've stuck to that here. So at the end of the day though, we've got a lot of phones here that have come out throughout the start of 2019, and I think for the most part, a lot of these technologies that we've seen are things that I'm very impressed with and what I'm excited to see more of moving forward. You've got more seamless displays, you've got more cameras, and the phone itself has better battery life, but there is still more improvement to be done in that category. And I feel like at this point, the trend is that the hardware is definitely there, both in terms of power as well as the cameras, but I feel like software optimization and cameras is still something that a few of these companies seem to struggle with. If you're someone who's looking for a phone that has a great value but an amazing camera and just a nice simple software experience, then you really can't go wrong with the Pixel 3a. I think it is just such a good deal for what it is, and even though it didn't really make sense as to why Google made it, I'm still glad they did. If you're a photographer looking for a phone that can take incredible photos, then the one that I can recommend is the Huawei P30 Pro. With their collaboration with Leica, they've been doing some great things, but unfortunately kind of the software experience and the things that are going on with like Google and Huawei and the US, because the phone is still meant to be used as a phone and you can't look at it just from a camera perspective. A phone that I believe has a lot of the same characteristics as the Huawei P30 Pro though when it comes to the camera, but with better software and also better display, is the Oppo Reno 10x Zoom. This device has just done a very good job overall, but the one thing that I think that they can really improve on over the years is the software experience with the camera. I feel like the processing and the optimization still needs a little bit of work, but the hardware is definitely there. My favorite phone though that has come out in 2019 though overall right now is the OnePlus 7 Pro. I just love the software experience. I think the display is amazing, and just that fluid AMOLED is something that I hope many more phones do in the future. The camera's definitely gone through a lot of improvements, and it just shows that OnePlus is really committed to bringing user experience to its forefront by improving as many things as possible for past and present users. Really, the only thing that I don't like about this device is that stupid curved edge, because it is so easy to accidentally press something when you're typing or holding the phone, and because of the size of this device and having small hands, it is just more prone to accidental presses. Otherwise, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like and let me know down in the comment section below what you believe is your favorite phone right now in 2019, and I'll see you all in the next video.